the minority in Parliament has currently begun their open forum as part of the discussion on the 2018 budget and economic policy. This is something new that the minority is doing. It's not a press conference. It's a discussion with members of civil society, members of the media, other sections of the public on the 2018 budget and economic policy. So we'll take you there now and we'll find out what happens there. Stay tuned.
Economy or sector.
Right, so you could see there in your shots James Kluche Abeji, Deputy Minority Leader, Minority Chief Whip, Alhaji Mohammed Mubarak Muntaka. They are together with the Honorable Adam Mutawakilu, a number of other, leaders of the minority there at the high table. They are the ones who will be chairing this discussion. It's supposed to be an open forum to help people to express their views about the 2018 budget and economic policy. We'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we'll take you to the Parliament House. That is Job 600 building. We'll now take you back to Job 600 building, where the minority in Parliament is holding a roundtable discussion on the 2018 economic outlook and budget statement. Now, already the ranking member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, former Deputy Finance Minister Ato Forson, is addressing the gathering. He has been naming, among other things, some expectations of Ghanaians of the current government in the budgets. That's what we read by Honorable Ken Oforiatta on Wednesday, among which are some of the taxes the MPP said they will repeal when they were campaigning. So let's join them now. And here, the Honorable Ato Forson.
In some cases, we call it cascading, making them pay up to 20% in actual fact, and it's leading to the collapse of their businesses. This vindicates the position we took as a minority when the 3% rate was introduced, but which was unfortunately again ignored by the managers of the Ghanaian economy. Ladies and gentlemen, similarly, complaints have emanated from importers who indicate that they have noticed astronomical increase in duty payment since the government took over. It is important for government to use the opportunity in the 2018 budget statement to address these concerns, as failure to do so will worsen the business climate, especially at the time that Ghana has slipped 12 places on the World Bank Ease of Doing Business report. The deterioration is most unfortunate because around the same time last year, under the NDC government, Ghana moved up 13 places on the same index and was adjoined the best place to do business, in West Africa, ahead of Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now take you to debt, the almighty debt. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President and the Finance Minister are yet to apologize to the people of this country for boldly asserting that they will not borrow when elected into office, following a clear breach of the campaign commitment. Our national debt has ballooned alarmingly within the 11 months under the President, Nana Akufo-Addo's government. At the last reckoning, the public debt has increased from 122.6 billion in January 2017 to 138.6 billion as of June, and is set to increase due to recent development to about 150 billion Ghana cedis by December 2017. 150 billion Ghana cedis by December 2017, from 122.6 billion. You will recall, ladies and gentlemen, that after the collapse of UT Bank and Capital Bank, the Bank of Ghana approved a purchase and assumption transaction between GCB and Bank of Ghana. We issued a caution statement at the time and promised to return to the subject immediately the government provide information with all on the transaction. To date, however, as in the case of Franklin Templeton bond, no comprehensive information has been provided to Ghanaians. Nevertheless, we did warn against leaving the original owners and transferring the liability to taxpayers as a fiscal measure. Indeed, our information suggests that the Azumi Bank, in this case, Ghana Commercial Bank, will be receiving about 2 billion Ghana cedis worth of government bonds as an equivalent of, which is an equivalent of 1% of GDP to balance its assets and liabilities.
Forson, the ranking member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, giving some of his thoughts of some of the happenings that have been happening in the financial sector in the past few weeks. Let's go back and hear what more he has to say.
Who will eventually pay this liability. We are urging the Minister of Finance to make this information available in the budget to be presented before Parliament without fail. Without fail. We also decry the fact that those whose irresponsible conduct and mismanagement led to the collapse of these two banks in the first place appear to have been left, and the poor taxpayer already burdened with high fuel and electricity prices, and the general hardship is the one bearing the brunt. I think it's unfortunate. The recent failed energy bond, on which a colossal amount of 177.2 million Ghana cedis scandalously spent, is for all intent and purposes a public debt. And this view is shared by the IMF and the World Bank. When the NDC decided to introduce the energy sector levies, which for a bad faith, the NPP opposed and did not remove last year as a nuisance tax, but all of a sudden have decided to feast on it. The Mahama administration was very transparent. We came to Parliament and to get a law to support it. We expect the Minister of Finance to follow suit to table an agreement for UT Bank and Capital Bank bond. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now give you some projections on debt to GDP. The MPP inherited a grossed up debt to GDP ratio of 72.5%, with strong buffers instituted by an Act of Parliament. An example being the sinking fund, with almost a balance of $400 million, and the balances in the domestic debt restructuring account, the DDR, under the superior smart borrowing debt management strategy in place. Unfortunately, the state will be ending the year with debt to GDP approximately 73.6%. When the energy bond and the Capital Bank bond, UT Capital Bank bond is added, the debt to GDP will rise to 76.8% from 72.5%. Ghana is gradually heading towards HIPC. Ladies and gentlemen, don't be surprised that by end of 2019, we are declared HIPC. The above shows that despite their lofty policy in opposition, the MPP has undermined the conscious effort to slow down the rate of growth in public debt since 2015. And you agree with me, I have the graph, I can show you the graph. You notice that the rate of growth tapered in the course from 2015 downwards. But all of a sudden, within 11 months, you see the rate of growth going up. It's interesting. The so-called competent economic managers is very interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now take you to expenditure. So far, we note that the finance minister has been silent on the MPP's promise to save the nation 3 billion Ghana cedis annually from the wasteful expenditure. That's the way he termed it. The reason for this silence is perhaps not far-fetched. Even as he has failed to make the promised savings, he and his government have been engaged in very wasteful and scandalous expenditures. A case in point is the credible 177.2 million failed energy bond program expenditure. This expenditure represents 25% of the amount, 700 million, actual cash realized after the bond flotation. A huge 80 million is provided as administrative expenses, which is unjustifiable. Such costs as air ticket, hotel accommodation, per diem payment, etc. cannot amount to this. We once again demand a detailed breakdown of this expenditure. We also reiterate our demand for details to be provided on the payment to transaction advisors which is quoted in the bond prospectus as 87 million Ghana cedis. Compared to what was spent on the previous bond flotation, this is extremely inflated, and we will push for a comprehensive inquiry in this matter. We demand from the Minister of Finance to provide updates on the current status of expenditure allocation to the following proposed policy initiatives. Number 1, stimulus package for industries. Number 2, planting for food and jobs, which appears not to have yielded any tangible dividends except a weak response to the devastating armyworm attack, which we fear could affect food security going forward. Number 3, support to small businesses in rural and deprived areas. Number 5, entrepreneurship development. Now that's number 4. Number 5, Zongo Development Fund. And number 6, one district, one factory. We note that despite the plethora of assurances, including one from the President that 51 of the factories will commence by November, not a single factory has been built in any district in the Republic of Ghana. Number 7, one village, one dam. A single dam is under construction. Not a single dam is under construction under this slogan, despite assurance from the Vice President that work will start after the rainy season, which has long been over. I don't recognize that we are still in the rainy season, so we expect that something should be done. Number 8, small business development. Number 9, 275 million for 275 constituencies. $275 million for 275 constituencies under $1 million per constituency slogan. As the financial year draws to close, not even $1 has been transferred to any constituency in Ghana. In fact, in spite of the promise in the NPP manifesto to do so, and claimed by the Special Initiative Minister, Honorable Howard Kumsi, that a transfer will be effected in August this year. We are in November, he said August. $275 million per each constituency. Ladies and gentlemen, I am an MP and we have MPs here. Have you seen $1 in your constituency? Matreko. Number 10, free senior high school. While the MPP manifesto promised to provide free SHS for all, only first-year students were admitted to the program in September. Over 560,000 students in the second and third year were unjustifiably excluded. In spite of all this caution to make adequate, provisions and preparations to avert overcrowding and drops in quality, the MPP implemented the program without making the necessary provision for adequate funding and infrastructure. 2 months into the program, government has failed to pay the second tranche of 20% fund, which is badly needed for the schools to fend for the students. Unfortunately, Ghanaians has also been aware with these horrifying images of widespread overcrowding, lack of classrooms and dormitories, forcing students to sleep in the open and to sit on cement blocks instead of desks, sanitary conditions leading to dangerous diseases such as malaria and pneumonia, poor quality food and general squalor. This situation will no doubt result in terrible decline on quality and standard of our schools. Sadly, we know that not even a single 3-unit classroom block has been constructed by the Akufo-Addo government since it took office in January 2017. And we are unable to see how these challenges will be resolved in the near future. Unfortunately, number 11, setting up the development authorities, no clear poverty reduction strategies appear to have been implemented this year. Number 12, restoration of allowances. After a lot of pagantry, after all this pagantry that went into the launching of the restoration of the nursing allowances, several complaints have been received of long delays in the payment of the allowances. Private trained nurses have also in the past few weeks demonstrated over government failure to employ them. Agricultural trainees have agitated and demonstrated over the non-payment of allowances to them, and their demands have fallen on deaf ears as no concrete action has been taken on this matter. The College of Education Teachers Association in Ghana, CTAG, also pop up in arms over lengthy delays in the payment of monies owed them. The plight of newly trained doctors have come to the fore. The Ghana Medical Association has complained bitterly about government failure to employ over 250 doctors trained at a great expense to the state, unfortunately. Precious state funds that are wasted on reckless manner, like the 177 million field energy bond expenditure, can be channeled into meeting this obligation to bring relief to our people instead of spending it on the things like what the NPP is doing as we speak. Finally, in 2017, the original and the media review budget, the minister made two major backpass changes to our fiscal regime. First, he added pipeline expenditure that the NPP had been compiling under the Giftness reform to shift to accruals accounting to the deficit. We expect the minister to continue the process and add equivalent amount to the appropriations bill in 2018. Secondly, in the media review, the governor clearly reopened the books to allow interest payment in January 2018 to be given another back pass to December 2016. In violation of the cutoff of 2016, in violation of the cutoff rules under the Financial Administration Regulation, FAA, still in force. Also, since in 2017, also end on a weekend, we expect the minister to include the full estimate for the December 2017 debt service commitment in the appropriations for 2017 and not revert to the Financial Administration Act basis. We must stress that these two conditions will define our cooperation in the passage of the 2018 Appropriations Act. In conclusion, contrary to the President's assertion that the 2018 will create jobs, we in the minority believes that the 2018 budget cannot create the jobs because of the following reasons. One, how can you create jobs when the commercial banks do not have the needed liquidity to lend to the private sector? Ladies and gentlemen, the commercial banks in this country are in big distress. We thought the government was going to issue a bond to free the liquidity space. Unfortunately, to surprise you to know that the bond was not successful. So the commercial banks in this country were coerced to issue a bond in the form of debt swap. So the state issued a bond to the commercial bank in the form of debt swap. So they don't have liquidity. So if they don't have liquidity, how do you expect them to lend to the private sector to create the jobs? Impossible, Mr. President. I think somebody is not briefing you properly. Impossible. It can't be done. Number two, how can you create jobs under severe austerity and the fiscal consolidation? The budget deficit in Article 4, IMF Article 4, is projected to be 3.8. So ladies and gentlemen, next year, let us be assured that there is going to be unfortunate severe austerity equivalent to 1983. Unfortunately, we should expect that. Number three, how can you create jobs when you have mandated the central bank to pursue tight monetary policy? And number four, how can you create jobs when the real sector, the non-oil GDP, is projected to grow in 2018, almost at the same level in 2016? We believe that, unfortunately, government economic policy for 2018 will bring about severe hardship, and Ghanaians must be well informed. A final reminder, we take advantage of this very important fiscal event in reminding senior officials and functionaries of the NPP that members of the NDC also pay taxes. It's important. Hence, they should refrain from dismissing or intimidating our members from occupying or applying for vacancies for jobs. They are also Ghanaians. In fact, they are Ghanaians and they pay taxes and should be treated as such. Thank you very much.
So watching Joy News on Multi TV, that's the scene there as Job 600, where the minority is having a roundtable breakfast discussion to discuss the 2018 budget and economic outlook. A few broad points that's the former Deputy Finance Minister Ato Forson, who is currently the ranking member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, has been saying. He is saying, and he ended by saying, that the 2018 budget cannot create jobs. Now, he's referring to a statement made by the president over the week that the 2018 budget will create jobs. The president was speaking here in the Greater Accra region as part of his 3-day tour of the region, referring to Ken Ofori-Atta as a magician whose 2018 budget will create jobs. Now, he is saying that it's not possible. Why? Because there's no liquidity in the banking sector, referring first of all to the energy bond, which was issued, which has not accrued the amount of money that was projected. It was projected to have accrued. Also, he's referring to severe austerity that would hit Ghana in the coming year. He's saying, according to him, that in 2018, Ghanaians would experience the sort of suffering that was experienced in 1983, the year of the famine. So that's according to Mr. Ato Forson. Also, he picked a number of key policy initiatives that this government has laid out, and he gave his verdict on them. And one of these is the One District, One Factory initiative. You remember that the Ekunfi pineapple processing factory, the sod has been cut for the construction of an Ekunfi pineapple processing factory, and we are being told that he is saying that no factory has been built yet. Now, an update on that is that over 100 factories are expected to be built to start by the end of this year. The construction of over 100 factories will begin by the end of this year. That's what is coming from government. Mr. Ato Forson is saying that, look, we have not seen a single factory built. Let's go back to Job 600 and hear from the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, as he also addresses the gathering.
Of the budget statement. If we engage with members of the academia or UTA, want to be able to understand that their book and research allowance will continue to be an instrument that is used to support their work, which will also enrich the dialogue session and debate in the Chamber of Parliament. If we also engage even with organized labor, want to be able to understand their expectation in terms of how this government will manage pensions and the outstanding unresolved issues of pensions and how that affects retirement income security for many Ghanaians. So, ranking member on finance and the economy, let me thank you and your team. We also want to reflect what is the state of the cost of doing business in Ghana. What is the state of the Ghanaian private sector? When you hear daily that the private sector is the engine of growth, government is going to partner the private sector to create jobs, and you have a distressed private sector, as Honorable Ato have indicated, which has just been promised by government that they should expect a reduction in electricity tariffs. I was wondering whether the PUC is still existing, but PURC is still existing as a lawful institution of Ghana established by law to regulate this particular sector and to make those determinations. But those are interesting times ahead of us as a country if you want to understand how electricity tariffs, when we have independent power producers in the country, and we know that Ghana has largely shifted from hydro to thermal, which is quite expensive. But we will measure. The ranking member have also indicated to you yesterday in the evening, I was in Bagabaga Training College. I was liaising with the ranking on education and the Honorable Ato, that the students are awaiting the payment of the allowances. So as a minority, we have a responsibility to remind government that whilst you budgeted for or did not budget for it in 2017, make sure it's adequately budgeted for in 2018. A noble thing that they have done. With Free Senior High School, we are now hearing that they will deal with the challenges. Let it not be by word. Our concern as a minority is the quality of the senior high school graduates that this system will produce, and that how that will impact on human capital development of our country. And that you don't think of when you want to know whether an aeroplane can stand headwinds or not. It depends upon how it taxis and take off. But if it says regardless of the headwinds, we are taking up with the senior high school program, regardless of its headwinds, the turbulence of the flight can as well ground the flight. And therefore, they are reminded that with free senior high school, while we appreciate that it's noble, we are saying that its implementation will come as a cost to the state and to the nation. So once again, colleagues, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the media, let me just conclude with one appeal to you, ladies and gentlemen of the media. We can understand that a ruling government has some romance for 1 year in terms of its goodwill. But when the political opposition and the ranking member on finance raises that we want to understand how 177 million Ghana cedis have been spent in the issuance of bond, it's not for you, the media, to go publishing that is propaganda. Go behind the veil, interrogate what he has said, and interrogate what government has said. You don't leave it at that level that this is political propaganda. You owe it a duty to keep the Ghanaian public adequately informed about the actions and of government. And therefore, we expect that just as you held us to the word, you will, to what is Caesar, give to him. We expect that when we raise these issues, it's the same government we sell value for money. Is that lost today? You are not interested in knowing value for money when 177 million can be used to issue for a bond, particularly so for an administration. And many of you, again, from civil society, be reminded, if September 2016 was now Vice President Bawumia's economic lecture at Central University, where he demonized and nearly criminalized borrowing. Few weeks ago, you saw him with the Minister of Finance in the Calabash wanting for extension of time to borrow, yet they could not get money to borrow. So we are saying that interrogate the issues. They said that it was wrong to borrow and that debt to GDP was a fundamental problem. Our ranking member have said that we risk being declared a debt-distressed country given the incident and the appetite with which they are borrowing. We are concerned. So the essence of today's family meeting is just for us to brainstorm so that our members of parliament will be adequately equipped. Then we can reflect the anticipation of the Ghanaian people. Let me conclude emphasizing on one important issue. That we expect that the 2018 budget will signal how this government intends to address the growing unemployment of our country. Whether they do so through one factory, one district, which is not taking into consideration proximity to raw materials and its availability or market, but just because they think the private sector, why is it that the private sector is really not investing in those areas anyway? The cost of doing business. So, ladies and gentlemen of the press, you may identify yourself if you are from civil society. You can question or probe or interrogate any matter as raised by the Honorable Ato Forson. And you can also add your own. For instance, you expect that when the debate is going on, what do you want your NDC minority to reflect? Maybe in the manner of sanitation management, you can share your thoughts with us. And colleagues, let me thank you for supporting this initiative. I've heard them say that we are engaging the media. Yes, we do. When you go to the US Congress or House of Commons, members of Parliament, as they walk out, if you have concerns, your instrument and platform and tool appropriately is to engage the media. What is important is for you to question the issues we have raised and not the personality who has raised it, or you go and say Honorable Ato Forson is engaged in propaganda. How can 177 million Ghana be propaganda? Did it happen or not? Did you spend that amount of money or not? Did you go through clear principles of transparency? And are you assuring the nation in matters of value for money? So the Ghanaian people are expecting that this budget will address the growing unemployment. The ranking member was quite economical. There are over 35,000 nurses who are unemployed. The Ghana Medical Association have served their own trade. So we'll open the floor for questions and answers. Honorable Sir George.
Thank you. You are a very, very intelligent audience. I didn't need to prompt you to clap for my leader this time around. Let me also acknowledge the presence of the former Northern Regional Minister, Honorable Moses Mabemba, who is with us.
Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu there also giving his remarks after that speech by the Honorable Ato Forson. Among others, he has mentioned that 35,000 nurses are unemployed currently, and he has mentioned that the quality of the graduates that comes out of this free SHS system is very important. It's something that is paramount we must be looking at. A number of things also that the Honorable Ato Forson mentioned when he had his turn was that no dam has been built under the One Village, One Dam system. That promise that was made. It comes under the Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication Program. That program has been launched, by the way, and no dam has been built, according to the ranking member. Raised a number of issues about free SHS, including the fact that the second 20% tranche of funds released to the heads of the second cycle schools has not been released. Now, even for the first tranche that went, you remember that Joy News covered a story from the northern part of Ghana where the head teacher is saying that she was not given, the head mistress was not given any clear guidelines as to how to use the money, and so she has not used it. And that is a concern that has been raised, and the second tranche has also not gone. And so these are some of the issues that have been coming up. Of course, we'll be going through these issues and analyzing them in a more in-depth manner in our upcoming bulletins. But this is where we end our coverage of the roundtable discussion.